I haven't developed that.
Okay, I will call to order the Burnett County Land Use and Information Committee meeting for September 2nd, 2025. Notice has been posted in accordance with Wisconsin statute 19.84 open meeting law. At this time is the time for public comments on 3-minute limit per person on anything that's not on the agenda anyone wishes to address.
Oh, sorry.
Seeing none, we'll move on. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda order.
So,
Motion by Supervisor Anderson,
I'll second that.
seconded by Supervisor Lacqua Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Excuse me. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of our August 5th, 2025 meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes by Supervisor Blomberg, second by Supervisor Szymanski. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay, on to the public hearing. Jason, do you want to?
Notice of public hearing, State of Wisconsin, County of Burnett, Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025 at 9 a.m. at the Burnett County Government Center, room 165, Town of Meenan, Cyber, Wisconsin, regarding the following. Burnett County Land Use Shoreline Protection Ordinances. Number 1, conditional use permit CUP 2514 Webb Lake Land and Cattle Company LLC. Public notice hereby given to all persons in the town of Webb Lake, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Steve Austin on behalf of Webb Lake Land and Cattle Company LLC has made an application for a conditional use per the terms of the Burnett County Land Use Code of Ordinances to construct 5 rental storage buildings consisting of 50 units over the next 3 years, located on the parcel with tax ID 32644 on North Webb Lake Road in the RR1 zoning district in Government Lot 5, Section 9, Town 41 North, Range 14 West. Number 2, conditional use permit CUP 2515 Young. Public notice hereby given to all persons in the town of Eufaula, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Mark Young has made an application for a conditional use permit for the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances to convert the existing dwelling into a duplex over the next 3 years on the parcel with address 24687 Anchor Inn Road in the RR1 zoning district, located in Government Lot 2, Section 5, Town 38 North, Range 15 West.
Okay. Excuse me, little hay fever this morning. You're gonna hear me clear my throat often, I'm afraid. For conditional use permit CUP 2514 Webb Lake Land and Cattle Company. We have a minor move on this one because we did an amendment to the ordinance that removed these from RR1. Apparently, at the same time, we removed the exterior storage provisions for that. However, this one was approved before. We had found it to be a suitable site, even though it was an RR1. And what we need to do is, I think the appropriate thing to do is to proceed with the public hearing. But we will need to have a rezoning of this parcel to RR2 before the permit can take effect. So rather than hold up Steve here or anyone else, we'll have to put that on next month's agenda to do the rezoning. Town of Webb Lake will be, I'm sure, fine with approving it because they've already approved the conditional use permit. And for whatever it's worth, this is how we did it in Washburn County all the time, but there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just a matter of because we had done in a previous application, apparently didn't catch that the amendment had changed things a little bit there. So with that, Steve, you want to come up and talk about your project?
Thanks for taking this meeting. It was approved obviously a few years ago, and I'll explain why it's. We were served with a frivolous lawsuit that claimed that we weren't a campground, so we fought that for 2 or 3 years. That's went away. In the meantime, the lender wasn't that excited to be lending money on a project with a lawsuit hanging over our head, so that's now done. They can't go back. We're ready to move forward with the 50 units. And I can't promise you that it's 5 buildings or 4 buildings are being. That's what we'd like to have be approved for is the 50 and have it configured however it works on that land. We still have to pull the, I should know the term, but the permit to move the soil because it's over an acre. So I'll have to get that from.
Stormwater permit
Thank
from the DNR, yep.
So I'll get that. And I'm thinking the start project's probably not till spring, given how late it is. And plus we'll have to come back, as you say, for the
Okay,
zoning. So that's the reason for the delay, why we didn't get started.
understand. And the need to do the rezoning, is not gonna inconvenience you then, really.
No,
Hold it. It's unusual here that we can often do that within like 10 days of this meeting,
sure.
and not many counties, it's like the next month anyway. But,
Right.
but, it was just something we missed, frankly. Didn't, we had all the paperwork from last time. It just proceeded as if it were the same, and that's all. So hearing that, I think your plot plan's pretty accurate. There's a little bit of wetland to the north and it's downhill quite a bit
Yep.
from the site, I would think.
Ruth King's been out there and we mitigated some of that already.
But the reason it's noted in our
Yes.
observation, but looking at the map, it looks like the property line just kisses that a little bit. Significantly, and it doesn't involve the project significantly. So, any further questions by any of the committee for this?
There's really no housing around there. That bumps up to.
Pardon?
That there's really no housing around there. There's a campground on the other side of the road and
Right,
county land
yeah, it's
past that strip.
there's no reason whatsoever not to rezone that to RR2. That's would have been done simultaneously if we would have caught that. So anyway. Committee members have any questions?
I guess the question I have, just so I can tell from the map, is the distance from the proposed units to the wetlands.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know that when they come out there, that the DNR will make sure that we're,
Well, the map's to scale and it's 40 feet
okay,
offset, I believe, scaling from the line, looks like. And the wetland setback is 40 feet.
sure. It won't be a problem.
But the issue
There's a
would
big
be,
hill that goes down in there, so
Right.
we won't get close to
right,
that.
you want to be on level ground with the structures, of course, so you don't want to have to fill or grade or anything. So, right?
Right.
So, yeah, my assessment, looking at it was scale wise, it was fine. And it would have been nice if the surveyor would have shown that, though,
Sure.
but he probably didn't think it met it, so,
It was questionable whether it was, he didn't think so, and they came out and what they said to me is, we think it is, but they weren't even 100% sure, but we said, we'll just treat it as such.
well, in the sand country, it's a basin, so the water level is gonna be, it's not like you're talking clay soil where it's a large water table, it's
It's pure sand.
sand, so I think there's, your edge of the wetlands probably pretty constant, I would think.
You said the DNR has been out there. Did they express any concerns or?
I'll have to have them back out, obviously, because I'll need to start the process, but the first time out, none.
Is that standard that the DNR comes and visits? Is
Pardon?
that kind of standard that the DNR comes and visits?
Well,
Yeah.
when they need a permit, yeah.
Well, that's because he was working through the permit process on the first go around.
Got it.
DNR just doesn't randomly go out there unless you're doing a permit though.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But
This is right
in the initial application and grading or prep for that, which then you ceased,
Right.
But they will revisit it probably with the stormwater permit again, just to make sure everything's still the same, And if it's incremental anyway, you're not gonna do it all at one shot. So,
No, I'd like to put up some and get some, make sure they rent, and then continue putting some up.
right, so it'll be, and then we'll be getting land use permits for the structures as you do them from us, so we'll be looking again too.
Yeah, if one had to be adjusted slightly to slide it south or something to meet the 40-foot wetland setback, he has plenty of room to do that, so.
When it's that removed, was there still room for, I get emergency equipment to get in there?
Yes,
And then, as I recall, this is stretching my memory, but we talked a little bit about leaving some trees for screening and their
oh yeah,
initial approval.
we're leaving them all in front, so we haven't taken any of those.
So there's a fairly good stem density still. I haven't been by there
Yes.
lately, but
It is in the summer, you know, in the winter it looks a little different, but
always.
but you
always-
can't see the campers on the other side of the road, and you can't see because of the brush.
We probably talk about some kind of maintaining the existing screening for like the first 30 feet off the right of way. Would
That's
that be
fine.
about right?
And I don't know if there's any, you know, we're interested in doing the storage containers too, instead of. It's more environmental, we can. Excuse me, we can put them next to each other, and then they're secured.
That the open storage part was the issue that was a.
No,
obviously,
yeah, it would be a closed container,
oh, well, it's, yeah, it's inside, that's.
you know, yeah, that's what they want.
I
It's going to
misunderstood.
be for people primarily that want to store their ATVs and
Well,
stuff.
it's true, and if they store them for the winter on the trailers, you know, in the same place, it's just empty trailers in the summer, then probably.
And I don't know, I mean, I don't know if, there's any specific ordinances, applying to storage containers. I mean, either in that district or for the county, I don't know if there's any
No.
specific, okay.
Nope, they're just treated just like an accessory structure, like anything else, so.
Any further questions by any other committee? Well, go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I went by the property there and being the campground's right there. It looks like a great addition. It looks like he's got his ducks in a row to me and, yeah, I'm just happy to see there's a place for people to keep their ATVs, UTVs and so on, so.
Yeah, if they really don't have room within the campground and the campsites, it needs to be somewhere. Kind of works for both sides, right? So I'm gonna then open the public hearing, which we need to do, even though there doesn't appear to be anybody here or anybody online either about this. So. So nobody here to speak to the public hearing, right? Nobody's on Zoom, anything like that? Well, with that, then I'm gonna close the public hearing and open it up to committee discussion.
I did receive some, from people who lived in the area. I received just a couple contacts, but they were more concerned that it, their specific concerns were the wetlands and also that it wasn't the correct zoning, but it sounds like we're in discussion to rectify that.
Right, they were correct that we had made that amendment. And it was such an easily overlooked thing. I don't know how we missed it, but we did, so. Any further discussion? Anybody with the committee? At that time, I'd entertain a motion then.
Make a motion to approve Cup 2514.
A motion by Supervisor Szymanski,
One second.
a second by Supervisor.
Do we have to rezone before we?
No, let me just get. Supervisor Warner seconded discussion. We don't have to rezone first. We need to rezone, so the motion would be to approve subject to the rezoning being approved. So I guess I'd ask you to amend the motion and amend your second to say that.
Would agree. Motion to approve Cup 2514 amended to include the rezone.
Subject to the rezoning being approved by the county board.
And I'll
And he accepts the seconded, so now we corrected that. Any further discussion? Are there any conditions that committee recommendation? I haven't scrolled that far yet.
Or is it just including the same recommendations they had before?
What?
Can I ask for clarification?
Sure.
On the storage containers, you're talking like semi-storage containers, right?
They're like you see those shipping containers.
Shipping containers? My only concern would be the look of them, because they could be all different kind of colors.
They could, but they won't be,
Okay,
because I need.
I'm like, that'd be ugly. Sorry.
So the motion includes the 4 staff recommendations then as well,
Were there 4 or 3?
or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's no outside storage allowed. That's now required by the ordinance. Site address, of course, and all local, state, federal. I think we might want to add, there's existing vegetative screening in the first 30 feet from the right of way. That should remain. The screening would help address any storage container issue anyway.
So is that part of the motion then?
I think at this point, we probably need to, how do I make a motion to amend?
Well,
Because we're getting really complicated here, and we've kind of amended an amendment.
Yeah, that was, you're right. I was looking at the previous approval when I saw the 3 conditions, so I'm catching up to the current one.
The previous approval actually had 5 that were made part, I had 3, I think, in my staff report, but then there was 5 that actually made it part of the motion. So if you look at the
There's
approval letter,
4 this time.
you look at the approval letter from the prior CUP that has the 5 listed.
Okay, we want to look at that.
Well, actually, that was one of the staff concerns was that,
Okay,
outside storage.
yeah, I'd say that maintaining the vegetative screening is substantially the same as 2 staggered rows of evergreens along the road. That's pretty much what we were talking about and what's there. And then the dark sky lighting, but I think you had planned to do that anyway, did you?
I don't think I'm gonna take any lighting.
That was just that there's going to be big floodlights all over, it's light. Most of them are lit for the doors. No, not for the whole, like a football field type of thing. So,
So I'd like to make a motion to amend. Is that how it works? Amend. I got confused.
yeah, we corrected the initial motion. We didn't really amend it so much as just corrected it. So now you would be asking to amend the motion to
Make a motion to include,
use the approval conditions from the previous approval.
so no outside storage allowed, site address required prior to construction, follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity, maintain a vegetative screen substantially the same as 2 staggered rows of evergreens along the road, dark sky lighting to be used.
Right.
I'll second the motion to amend.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Lacqua Addison to add the staff recommendations from the previous approval of this project, seconded by Supervisor Blomberg. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like confirmation if the property owner agrees with those.
I think so.
You agree with them?
He accepted them previously.
What do you need from the town to change it to RR2?
Right. That we just have to do to be in compliance with the ordinance as amended. Changed since the last time you did it, and we missed that. So, but that I don't see as being contentious at all because the town's already approved it. So, any further discussion? Okay. This is on the motion on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, now I'll do a roll call vote on the motion as amended to approve. We just voted to add the amendment now. So,
Can I get clarification though? The motion is approval pending a rezone
right,
with these conditions. Okay.
and we just added the conditions because we slipped by that because of the other part of it. So we always do that. And I was slow on the uptake on that. So, this is the motion as amended, subject to the approval of the rezoning by the county board and the conditions that were added to the motion as amended. So Supervisor Tucker,
Yes.
Supervisor Moyer,
Yes.
Supervisor Szymanski,
Yes.
Supervisor Blomberg,
Yes.
Supervisor Chuck Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Karen Locke Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Conroy, yes. Motion's carried. And you're good with getting all ready? Then get, we apply for the paid documents for the rezoning so we can get that in as soon as we can. Okay, thanks. Okay, conditional use permit 2515, Mark Young, which is the conversion of a single family dwelling to a duplex. Would you come forward, Mr. Young?
Yes.
Okay.
This won't take too long, right? No, no, it's a pretty straightforward request. You've got a fairly large parcel in R1 zoning that you let's see, you have 12 acres and you want to convert the existing structure into a duplex officially.
Correct. The previous owner had used it as an apartment. I just want to be in compliance and follow all the rules. So that's why I
Well, and
am
again,
doing this.
it's just, it's a conditional use permit to make sure that there's adequate room to do 2 dwellings, which on 12 acres, I think we're pretty safe. Anything further to add, Jason, or beyond this? I think it looks like it's 5-bedroom house already.
Yes, yep. And then there was one letter in your packet from a neighbor. I think it's a neighbor to the southeast. That would not in favor of the request.
Not great. Well, you know, looking at it, when was the building originally built?
In 1980, I believe.
Okay, pretty
And we're
modern.
just in November of,
I'm gonna ask that question, the reason I ask that is that, in the past, the permitted uses was a 1 or 2 family dwelling. But that changed to a single family dwelling quite a long time ago, but probably after this was originally built. So we have that too.
I think it was built in 2001, because that's when the sewer permit was pulled.
okay, 2001.
Yeah, it might have been one single family dwelling era then. But I don't, it isn't really relevant. I think we're just, because
I guess I mean, this isn't relevant to, I mean, except for that was brought up by the concerned neighbor, the discrepancy in property taxes. But I suppose it's just on them. I mean,
That's an assessor question.
looks like they missed it.
Don't, county doesn't have any say in what the assessed value is.
Okay.
no, I thought perhaps it was a waterfront adjoiner. I didn't check the. That would explain a lot more taxes if you're on the lake.
Yeah, there is no, like,
Pardon?
it's not on the water.
No, you're not, but I don't know if he is or not, but if he's the neighbor to the southeast, he's not. If he's southwest, he would be. And I assume that based on his amount of taxes he's paying, 5,000 something. But anyway, that's not relevant to
Right.
why we approve or don't approve.
Yeah, the neighbor to the southeast, he has an improvement value of almost $500,000. So he
Okay.
must have a very nice house in there or something. That's why his taxes are what it is without waterfront.
Well, there again, this parcel could easily be split into 2 separate parcels and another dwelling built on it and would be the same occupancy as the duplex here. I don't see that having much effect on him in reality. So I think any other further questions by the committee members for this? Go ahead and take a seat. If we may or may not call you back up, so
I'll
sit in the
stick
front,
around.
sit in the front row for now. Okay. Um. At this point, I'll open a public hearing. We have nobody online, nobody here wishing to speak to it, I don't think. So. If there's no one here to speak to this matter in a public hearing, I'll now close the public hearing and. Open it for committee discussion. Anything,
According to this, he's already been operating it as a duplex,
well,
and he just wants to correct it by getting a permit.
yeah, I think actually it is functionally a duplex based on the previous owner, probably more so even, and he wants it to be in compliance. That's pretty basic. And it obviously was designed, most of the time, a 3-bedroom septic, you would be saying, well, it needs to be upgraded, but it's already sized for 5. That's a 10-person occupancy already. It doesn't need any additional upgrades. I don't think there's any conflict with the comprehensive plan. No, this residential large parcels it is. Whoops. Staff recommendations are simply not to exceed a total 5-bedroom occupancy or 10 persons. That's a lot, you know, nothing there. So any improvements that would increase occupancy would have to upgrade the septic, but ought not to be an issue here. And then all the local, county, state, federal regulations, those are all technically also state regulations, just for whatever it's worth. Any further discussion?
And no input, written or oral from town of La Follette.
Correct.
And they got notified plenty in advance if they wanted to have a comment. They probably felt it was nothing to say one way or the other. If there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve CUP 2515 with the 2 staff recommendations. Entire dwelling not to exceed 5 bedrooms and follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity.
Motion by Supervisor Szymanski,
I'll
second.
second.
Second by Supervisor Moyer. Any further discussion? No further discussion, hearing none. Supervisor Tucker,
Yes.
Supervisor Moyer,
Yes.
Supervisor Szymanski,
Yes.
Supervisor Blomberg,
Yes.
Supervisor Chuck Anderson.
Yes.
Supervisor Aqua Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Conry, yes, motion's carried. You're good to go.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now, we wanted to discuss zoning enforcement some more. So I think we've gone through this quite a bit. We do a stepped level of enforcement, typically notices before citations. And generally, if it's something we would issue a permit for anyway, we often, if it's done before we discover the violation or the non-compliance, have the applicant apply for and receive a permit, double fee them. If they come in on their own initiative, though, and say, I goofed, I didn't apply for that deck, but I want to apply. Now, we didn't catch them. Probably don't even double fee them then, because they're trying to correct it on their own initiative, kind of like he did, right? So the only real time we initiate enforcement actions is when we haven't successfully gained compliance, or it's a really egregious, you know, sewage on the ground, sewage in the water type of thing, where we take a more aggressive action. So that's been the policy. So, we wanted anything further to add to that?
I'm just wondering, do you want me to put together like a policy document that kind of outlines all these things formally in writing?
Well, if you agree with what my assessment was,
I mean, then we can
That's
bring
right.
it back to the committee and
That's a good idea, then we can look at it instead of just bouncing it around.
Yeah, I'm just trying to summarize what we've been talking about and you know, we're always gonna have people who felt they're being picked on or that they were singled out and everybody else does the same thing, and that's just the nature of the beast. No different than when you get pulled over by the traffic cop for going 66, but everybody else is going 70, right? But it is what it is.
I'm just wondering what is a current policy or a proposed policy on, you know, we approve lots of conditional use permits with conditions. You know, is there follow-up? It's like, did they follow the conditions, or is that also complaint driven, or is there like a trigger, or is that just unrealistic with the current staffing? I'm just wondering.
Well, if somebody complained, then it would obviously get moved up to the higher on the list to look at. I remember most of the CUPs that have come through, so if I'm driving by for a different permit, I will check, you know, and see if things look like they're still functioning how they were supposed to. Now, I'm not gonna say I remember every single condition that was put on place to them, but you know, if I see something that looked egregious, I would definitely note it and look back at the files
I mean, some,
afterwards, but there is no formal, you know, 6 months after it's approved, staff will go out there and look at it. No, there's nothing like that.
some that have a time to do some things. And
Yeah.
those can be difficult because there's sometimes extenuating
Mhm.
circumstances, you know, drought when people are gonna plant trees and they don't get it done or the trees die, you know, and you gotta go back and do it again. But those often are complaint resolved or we notice. We try to tickler file or to try to know when to go look at those is a difficult thing to keep on top of.
I'd like further discussion, because I don't, you know, because, you know, variances and conditional uses, you know, we spend a lot of time, you know, discussing this, and does it have relevance, does it not have relevance, and is it realistic to have a tickler filer or the time or whatever, but I guess I'd like just to have a firm understanding, or at least,
I can tell you right now, there is nothing,
okay,
no specific time frame that anything gets looked at.
So it's like to have Jason prepare a kind of a outline of what the compliance or the enforcement.
I mean, I could make a list of, you know, here's choices or options, I guess you could look at. I could say, you know, option 1, do nothing, option 2, follow up at this time, option 3, wait for a complaint. You know, I could make a kind of a list of ways to look
you know, I
at it.
do invest a ton of time, but I think I'd like that option, and then the realistically, this can't happen with my current staffing. I mean, I think I'd like to have that full discussion.
Okay, so we have a document to react to, basically.
I think so.
Yeah, well, that makes sense too, because just my iteration of what we do is just a summary, sort of. If we formalize that, then we know why somebody got pinched, so to speak. That sound reasonable? Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, well, I like the suggestion of bringing in a procedural type layout and how we go about enforcement. And, you know, we've heard recently that we got some budget deficits coming up too to deal with. And, you know, from my standpoint, I just had a discussion with the town chairman this morning that said, hey, we probably are gonna wanna move forward with getting out of county zoning. These are still some of the reasons that they wanna get out of county zoning. I think when we ease some of these restrictions, or be more inclusive to the ideas that the township has regarding enforcement and even sign enforcement. We have there's a lot of laws on the books already regarding signage in the state. I guess when I read those, I don't know how many people have read the state statutes on signage. I think they're adequate as they are. Villages, of course, have their own. Town of Wood River, there's no sign ordinances there, as far as that the county enforces. I guess unless it's within, I suppose, 1,000 feet of a lake or 300 feet of a river.
Correct.
But for me, when I look at enforcement in general, we have a job to do. But if we're doing a job that our constituents or taxpayers aren't asking us to do, it raises our costs as well. So I want to look at this a little bit more objectively, yeah, and have an eye on reducing the budget within land use regarding ordinances and also sign enforcement. Because from my standpoint, unless a person has read the state statutes as I had regarding signage, for me, I think they're fine at the state level. We don't need county sign ordinances, in my opinion. So we could save some money there if we're not enforcing sign ordinances that we maybe don't need.
Well, I get your point, but I don't think we spend very much time enforcing sign ordinances. In the scheme of
Yeah.
things, the value, as I said, and the town, there's a town withdraws from zoning, fine, but it doesn't withdraw from shoreline zoning, doesn't resolve from sanitary ordinances or any of that stuff.
Well,
So-
yeah, sanitary is a totally different thing. I mean, that's
Right,
obviously a safety concern.
that's a big part of the staff's workload is sanitary.
That's what I'm getting at. Maybe we minimize the workload and therefore it minimizes our budget. So,
I want to be clear. Nate, maybe you can help me with this. Is there a department in the county that doesn't operate at a deficit? We're only operating, the land use operates at a deficit because it brings in some money and that doesn't pay the bill. There isn't a group in the county that brings in enough revenue to pay for themselves. They're all at a deficit.
Yeah, the only department that would actually have a net revenue would probably be forestry because of the stuffage. But outside of that, it is service delivery, it is the cost of people, and there isn't revenue that comes specifically in for those departments.
I feel like we keep saying deficit as a bad thing. It's the way the county operates. The sheriff's department operates at a huge deficit. Let's cut their budget, make them go find revenue somewhere. It is what it is.
Randy makes a great point. I mean, it's service driven. And what I'm saying is what I'm hearing is taxpayers, they don't want that level of service given as far as enforcement. And if we don't have the services being provided, we should have less cost.
And I'll beg to differ. I think it's both sides, and I think we do need to find a medium, because I get phone calls and, people stopping by to see me that it's like are upset that things aren't enforced. And so it is balancing it. I mean, which constituents are we listening to? And there is a mix of all of them. So I think it's important to have a good balance there. But in reality, I think the number of citations and enforcements is extremely low.
Well, there was that chart or document I gave you guys a couple months ago about citations. I think it was, averaging 10 to 12 a year, and that was through Flanagan's time and my time.
And so I think that states right there that it is an extremely low number. I just don't want there to be this illusion that the department's out there harassing people. I mean, that's not even one a month.
What percentage of letters, Jason, that are issued result in citations? And investigations result in citations being issued?
Well, I think we do about 200 violation letters a year,
But only a few citations.
10 to 12 citations a
So I
year.
mean, we do spend a fair amount of time sending letters and contacting people. It's not just citations that we should look at.
No, typically we get compliance, but people aren't.
If they don't know, they need to be.
Those letters generate revenue.
Often permits, yeah.
I mean, for people that get a letter and then follow and say, okay, I need to fix this. I mean, to me, the letter seemed worthwhile. You wanna just
right.
not do anything.
Right, that's how you get that permit that either we observed was necessary or the neighbor called and questioned.
Right.
And the person is notified and, oh, oops, and they got a permit, that's a big part of it. It's like as Karen said, I have not ever had anybody in my district ever complain about us enforcing anything. I get far more requests, how come we don't enforce it harder, So depends on where you are, though, seriously. Mine is high density waterfront property, high density Voyager Village type things, so I have a lot of people that expect the rules to protect their interests. And they let me know when they're not. So
I do have a question on, Duke brings up, state policies for, state ordinances and laws for signage and other things. Are state laws automatically incorporated or do we adopt those? Because the state isn't gonna come in and force them. They don't have the.
The way to look at that, in my opinion, is it's counties are creatures of the state, right? They were created to do the state's work. And a lot of what we do is mandated to us by the state. And we say unfunded mandated. They say, well, you guys can charge fees, In order to fund ourselves, we'd have to probably triple our fees and our constituents would not like that, right? And to my mind, I mean, I just made this argument in Washburn County when I was there. We were doing so many permits before the first bubble pop, in the eighties and nineties, that we were funding the operations of the zoning department. So we weren't on the levy anymore. Then when the bubble popped, and permits fell way off, that was after I left, frankly, but the county then had to scramble to put the land use department back on the levy because where are you gonna get the money, right? It isn't as if the only people that we do work for are the people paying the permits. That's the wrong view. What we do is supposed to be for the greater good of everybody, and we choose to regulate ourselves for the benefit of all of us. And then once in a while, somebody runs afoul of that. But that's the whole idea of it, that the fact that the neighbor is getting a sanitary permit is good for you because his septic system isn't gonna harm your water, right? That's the whole idea. So
To Karen's point, though, I mean, in yours, for an extension of the state, and the state has these statutes already. When we have more ordinances in addition to that to make it even more restrictive, that creates more overhead for us to pay. And, for me, I guess I look at it, I mean, there's already ordinances in different villages for signage and all those sort of things. But,
like for signage though, state signage doesn't apply on town roads.
their sign ordinance is pretty overall encompassing right now.
Again, signage, frankly, I always thought signage should belong with the highway department anyway, as the people maintaining the roads, but kind of like DOT in Wisconsin, right? That's who approves commercial billboards and whatnot.
But the state didn't mandate that we come up with all these extra ordinances. We did it on our own. We created our own unfunded mandate when it comes down to it. Like down to the individual taxpayer level, we're requiring them to pay for this enforcement. The state didn't tell the county to do it.
Well, that's a discussion for another time.
Sure, but when we're talking about budgets and so on, I get concerned when we have money that we have to raise additionally in this coming budget cycle. And I feel this is an area that we can limit the taxation on our residents.
Can I ask for clarification? Is Duke saying, you're saying that the state law only applies to state roads? Correct?
To the best of my knowledge, the state doesn't, Wisconsin DOT isn't going to issue a permit for a sign on County A.
No. So then he's saying, do we need to have a county permit? Does that mean we have no signs on county roads? Or do we not care then what signs go on?
We have places where on county highways,
I
that
know.
are appropriate. We got some intersection setbacks and stuff similar to DOT.
Yeah,
Public, you don't want to distract the driver with
no,
a
I get that.
type of
I
thing.
just needed to figure out where Duke was coming from and.
Yeah, signs are not allowed road right away or allowed for public safety problems. It doesn't matter what road it is. If it is a public funded road and there's a road and sign and road right away, it's not allowed.
No, and
So
certain setbacks and intersections.
as an example, like we did a rezone for, what's the new business there in Alpha, Burnett Plumbing. They're in Wood River. They don't have to follow the county sign ordinances at Wood River. Am I correct in saying that, Jason?
As long as they're outside the shoreland area.
Yeah, and then there's some kind of a watershed or stream or something that sits out of the school, but they're probably outside of that 300-foot area.
I thought Wood River was just north of the school.
I would bet that they don't have to follow our sign ordinances at the county level. Well, like you would have to if you're in the town of Grantsburg in Highway 70 area or town of Daniels or so on and so forth. But so they have a competitive advantage over other businesses of the same same type along Highway 70, because they don't have to adhere to that. So now, I just went by there today and there's a Burnett Plumbing vehicle sitting on the lawn there. If you do that right here, Meenan Township, you most likely would get a letter saying you cannot park a vehicle there as signage. But there, they
What
can.
DOT does is in unzoned townships is looks at use, you know.
Well, it's,
Fairly famously in Highway 63 north of Shell Lake, DOT permitted some billboards along Highway 63. The phone in the zoning office ran off the wall from people complaining about it.
my
But
point
DOT
is, you
has
have a
said-
vehicle that says Burnett Plumbing on it,
I
and sit there indefinitely and no problem from the county, but you cannot do that in a zone township.
If it's on highway, if it's in a state highway in the zone township, it partly is because this DOT relies on the zoning of the county is in place too. So if it's commercial or industrial, then you can have a billboard, but if it's not, DOT looks at what is use. And there was a guy had a little shop over there that was a beekeeping supply thing. So he said it's within so many feet of a commercial activity, right? So in that case, DOT had approved signage that Washburn County wouldn't have.
Let me ask a very simple question, and Jason can answer this easily, I'm sure. So in the case of Wood River, if there's a truck there that has business name on it, sitting off of road right away, so not in the state highway right away, that's allowed. No enforcement action can be taken at all. But if you have the same business that was along Highway 70 in another township that is county zoned, would that vehicle be allowed to be there with no letter given to them about removing that vehicle if it's being used for signage? I know instances of it, so.
Yeah, so in the town of Wood River, if it's outside of the shoreline zone, there are no sign regulations.
Okay, so what if that same business was in, say, the town of Daniel, same circumstance? Can that vehicle be sitting there as signage
No.
outside? See, there's my point. It's a competitive advantage for people, for townships that do not have zoning. If you have a business in Wood River on Highway 70 or any other road, you have a competitive advantage, which raises county sales tax, by the way. That's a good thing. I would think Nate would love to hear a higher amount of county sales tax coming in, but they have a competitive advantage. And we need to have this to be, throughout our county. We want business to boom in the county, but yet still be aesthetically appealing to people. But when we limit business, we limit our 0.5% county sales tax as well. So that's my point on it.
You have
And
four
I-
townships that don't have county zoning. You have 17 that do.
Yep. And what I'm saying though, is we've limited the amount of revenue we can bring in from those 17 townships.
Well, maybe, but I think that's a stretch.
And I would argue, I mean, I think this is good discussion, I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy, especially from the tourism perspective, driving into an area that doesn't have signage all over the place. I mean, it's more appealing for me to want to visit. And once again, it's the different perspectives that you're weighing. You're gonna find a lot of constituents, businesses that prefer one and that prefer the other. So I think there's,
I guess I don't feel it's a stretch, Craig, from the standpoint they wouldn't park the vehicle there if they didn't think it helped their business. They aren't gonna do it just to upset the county.
I suspect though that the vehicle's parked there until they get around to building an on-premise sign, which DOT will
If
permit.
they're allowed to have one.
Even by DOT, it's on premise.
No, I'm talking off-road right away. DOT don't care about those.
They issue sign permits for those two.
But I made my point.
Yeah.
That's one
We're
house.
talking the difference between billboards, versus on premise. That's another difference. And DOT relies on local county zoning as to where they permit that stuff. Because they don't have statewide zoning. Again, we're agents of the state.
And I stated my viewpoint. I think I showed financially, it works better for the county if we relax those ordinances.
There's an equal number of people who would disagree. So let's get on with it. Anything further?
Back to the enforcement, I would just like, Jason, when you draft that document, one of the sections I had in the document that I drafted was investigation triggers. And I think that's probably what's most important for this group is when do you investigate and why are you investigating? So if you could include
Yep.
something to that effect, that'd be.
Yeah, I kind of already started kind of a little bit of a document that talks about, here's the options we could do for enforcement, here's the options you can do for complaints, Yeah, so I think I think I have a good understanding of what you guys want to see in a document.
Thank you.
Then at that point, I think, do we,
You want it, then we'll put it on next month's agenda then?
yes, let's do that. And do we want to do a motion to proceed with that, or we just by consensus, we all agree? We don't need to formalize it any more than that. Just call that unanimous consent. We want to do the document. You
You're
know,
in charge of the agenda, aren't you?
pardon?
You're in charge of the agenda.
I am, yes, but I like us to be as collegial as we can be, you know, right? So. And if it doesn't need to be, you know, a motion that somebody might want to oppose, right, you know, there's no need to do that. So, anything further on that? Then we'll move on.
Staff
services?
reports, so those are in your packet. We have one staff out on maternity leave right now. Revenue is, you know, almost pretty close to what it was last year, just a touch lower. We'll definitely hit our budgeted amount. And all the expenses are pretty much on track. There's nothing out of the ordinary in there. So 94 new dwellings so far this year.
90 new dwellings,
94.
94 new dwellings.
You know what that compares to from last year?
No. Not without looking up the report.
Right off the top of your head.
That would be kind of meaningful if that were included. Compared with
Yes, I could go look.
same time a year ago.
I will try to remember that going forward. Yeah. Let's put more information.
Sure. Because that's fairly easy to look up. I guess it would be easy for us to look up too, but whatever.
I know, I was just thinking that, I'm like, I could just go do it right now.
It shows a trend.
It's I have a, just anecdotally, just because it's kind of funny, my neighbors across the road want to retire to Arizona entirely. You know, they go down there for the winter, they sell their lake home. And just some word of mouth of some people coming along and with the reassessment, you know, doubling the value practically. That word of mouth, a guy came, walked over and wants to desperately buy it from them, right? Really, a Kansas farmer. So, you know, so the value, even though to me, most of us sticker shot values we now saw happen, it doesn't seem to be chilling the market at all. They were able to put together a deal over some apple crisp and coffee yesterday. So kind of interesting, you know.
Oh, another thing I should mention, Derek passed all of his tests.
I saw that.
Yes.
I saw that. You should give him that shovel I gifted you that
Yes.
time as a prize for him.
Yep.
The handiest thing to have when you're doing soil work, pit work, is a little short compact shovel so you can dig steps in the sidewall to get out when the excavator made the hole too steep. I learned that a long time ago. Going in there with a putty knife isn't helpful when you gotta climb back out of the hole.
Just for giggles, October of 2024, new dwellings was 86. So that was as of October. It was 86.
But it helps with net new construction, but that doesn't do us a whole heck of a lot of good, right, Nate?
You can see that's up.
Short-term rentals, that's the permits that you have issued.
That's the county permits, correct?
That's
Yep.
renewals and some. new
Renewals and
ones.
new ones,
It's
yeah.
not
mixed.
just all new.
It's not all new, yep,
No,
so it's,
No, I understand.
that means we have 133 this year that have permits in the county.
How many do we suppose actually we have out there? But
250.
we got half, you think, then permitted? That's not terrible. Cause it's such a hard thing to prove, you know?
Yeah, but as long as these have the licenses, we can go to watch them and see if there's 15 cars sitting there. But whether that's their family member or
And that's what we should be getting some revenues out of that too, right? But
not too many so far.
no, but that's the problem is
Yeah.
getting that mechanism was provided, but it's not
Yeah.
happening.
We're not collecting and it's 0.5% loss.
I just have kind of a general question, possibly future agenda item, just because we've, talked about our applications. And this is maybe more for Jason, a question, like all the detail that's on here. To me, it's relevant in making a decision on a conditional use permit to have these details. But I know you're also receiving pressure to have less information, but for conditional use, yes, we make a decision. But I don't know how much information we need, because before they get a permit, then you're gonna ask these questions anyway.
Well, and this is these are generic applications that somebody that wants to have a gunsmith in their basement, do we need to know how much vegetation they're removing? Where the nearest wetlands are, when they're not even building new buildings. So I mean, it's a generic application that covers the whole gamut of anything people can apply for, so.
Everything from
I
that.
guess that's why I feel like if I bring it to the committee and if there's something that you guys want, you can always postpone it or table it and ask them to come back for more.
I was talking with Karen just before, looking at, when I go through that, and it's an unfair advantage, admittedly, having, I'm a geography major who's worked in mapping and land forever, right? Surveying everything. I can look at that. I can look at Krause's plot plan, can see where the wetland delineation would be, and it's just kissing the corner, I can see all that, but it's unfair for me to expect everybody else can see all that, right? And so, but we have so much really good at the tip of your keyboard information people could use. We could have had, maybe we should add the same image with the topography on it and the DNR wetland map layer. We could do that.
I could do that. I get a little concerned about the DNR wetland layer, just for the fact that it does say all over their website not to be used for, only planning purposes, must be ground truth and verified, and every disclaimer under the sun under it. So if I turn it on, it might
But see,
show things that are.
if I would have wondered, I'd
Not
turn
correct.
it on and I'd have looked at the topography
Correct.
and I said, there's no way that's a problem because it's so steep in that steep
Yep.
kettle. But I've been on that site and that, that road that goes in there is so high above Webb Lake, you can practically not see the beach from the top of the hill. It's just, it's way up in the air. So if there's a wetland shown there, it's gotta be in a kettle. I know that already, right? That's not fair to Karen or anybody else though, because you don't see that. Right? So
I mean, I can put more maps in there with like the contours turned on, floodplain's another one that's, that
as
layers.
part of that, I was, again, this anecdotally, I was looking at some land with a friend in Bayfield County, okay? And there in the clay plain where you have old farm fields, they map as wetlands because of the clay. So you got lake sedge growing, on and so if you don't know what you're looking at, don't understand, I taught the realtor the difference between sedge and grass, right? That day, because it's not really a wetland, but it's tilled, and then that plant is aggressive and live in that wet soil, right? So that's why DNR doesn't want you to use them as an absolute certainty, because of the potential for it to be wrong without doing field verification. I get that, but here in the sand, no, that probably is pretty reliable.
Yeah, it's not as much off as it would be in other counties.
Well, then there's places, there are little point symbol wetlands that don't map as mapped wetlands.
Yep.
Too, and you have all of that to contend with, but just from a point of view of a visual aid, with the understanding we're not gonna rely on it without. If it shows a significant wetland and you gotta delineate where that boundary is, might remove it, that happens too.
I mean, I can put a wetland.
I don't necessarily want to pile more work on Jason. I guess more my question is,
Oh, I know, we need to cut you off. We need to do a little bit of a training session now that the mapping.
On the GIS.
And the
website.
GIS mapping, so committee members can easily access the same information. As I routinely do. You
We're
know,
not gonna become experts, but I think, the few little questions or tricks that we don't know, it might be nice
that
to.
would be helpful. Seriously, that is such a good site with such, 1 foot contours, that's an enormous benefit to the consumer with the fact they have to deal with percentage of impervious surface and waterfront lots and what that. Otherwise, they'd be paying for a topographic survey most of the time. They don't have to, because it's out there already. Go ahead.
Do we have an idea as to when the updated FEMA and DNR?
The FEMA floodplain maps, no, the last I heard, they were still in the. Whatever stage 1 is of like gathering information, so.
Wonder how many stages there are.
I don't know, but it's like a 2 or 3 year process, so we're not very far into it. And then I don't know what budget cuts happening at the federal, cause I think some of that money flows down from the feds to the state to do some of that work, so I don't know if. That's gonna impact things either,
That
so.
would be really, really good if we could get that done. It would-
Yep.
We're hardly ever in floodplains, but we're mapped in them all the time.
And I guess that's more the issue without creating more, it's like, yes, a little workshop would be great. But, the permit asks for the applicant to provide that information. I'd rather put the burden on them, but then it sometimes overburdens them. But when we're looking at it, I really would like to have the information. So then it's a balance of, are we asking them to put the measurements on there? Are we asking Jason to do the work to find more information? It's just that we can spend an awful lot of time trying to research, what the application's asking for. It says, like, put the measurements on there. And if what we receive doesn't have that, I just kind of feel at a loss. And I think a workshop would help, because if we can quickly navigate the site, that information.
For a while, it was not as user-friendly as it used to be. It seems to have improved.
And a lot of that goes back to how tech savvy the person is that's filling out the application. Cause there are times when it might just be easier for us as staff to do it instead of spending, 20 minutes trying to explain to them how to draw a line.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So
Right,
there's always that balancing act that we're trying to work through.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Although more and more of people are pretty
Yeah,
tech
it's
savvy
getting
now.
better, but there's
it's-
still.
I can still 12 thumb that trying to do something, so.
Another question regarding that short-term rental number, is that currently what is registered then essentially is the short-term rental? So that number would tend to increase cumulatively over time?
No, this is the ones that have a permit to operate in the year 2025.
Okay, that has to be renewed yearly?
Yes, yeah,
It's a license, yeah.
yeah.
Not a permit, but a license.
then you have an estimate on. That's certainly
Well,
not all.
I think said that we think that touring group thought there was about 250 in the county. So we're, 55% of them.
Yeah, generally speaking, though, that number would tend to build as more and more people become aware or decide to comply or whatever.
In theory, yes.
Right.
Cause I checked the report from a year ago, that was the number for short-term rentals. As opposed to 133, that was 85 at that time.
So, we're done with just our kind of open discussion. That now I had circles, future agenda items, that's kind of what we're talking about, Karen, with possibly if we get a short agenda and you want to set up a little demo on the site, maybe that would be good at sometime as things slow down after
Yeah,
October.
we could maybe do, we'll have to see kind of what November. I don't think we'd want to do one in October
No.
based on what might be on there. So maybe November.
I think that we could add to the agenda pretty short notice.
Yeah,
Would be a
it would
few
just be a matter of me probably bringing up the, GIS on the overhead here and we'd go through some basic,
It's pretty good, you know, but for a while we had a thing when you put on, there was a bar and it would be in the way, you couldn't move it. Got that fixed, so you could get it out of where you wanna work, you know, and it's got it's got the ability to create some really nice images, you know, in just a few minutes if you, let's get friendly with it, that's the thing. But, so we'll do that, but not necessarily next month. Next month is the 10th or the 7th of October. Any further discussion, questions, anything to do? Hearing none, and can a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by
Second.
Lee, second by Chuck, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Wow, we ever had a meeting about this short?
I know, I'm like,
Been a while.
years.
Enjoy it while you can.
Doesn't happen.
Well, we thought there might be potentially some issues from Steve Austin's request, but evidently apparently nobody's bothered by it anymore. This is good.